What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Color Scheme Breakdown. This is a series in which I talk entirely too long about a particular color scheme in question. I go over what it is, right? I break down the color palette for you, go over any history worth noting about said color scheme. I give you any important enough variation that happens in that color scheme for that group, basically, if it's worth noting. And, the full rundown of what it is we're looking at. From there, I just give a thought ramble, my thoughts, likes, dislikes, anything else like that that I feel is worth noting about the color scheme in question. Then to finish things off, I talk about painting said color scheme. I haven't painted every color scheme out there, but I've painted enough to have a basic plan of attack for everything. And that's what I'm going to do. Some basic ways in which you could approach a color scheme to have it feel less daunting and still look sharp, as well as maybe some things to avoid for particular color palettes. And that'll wrap it up. So, with that said, up on the chopping block this time is a Space Marine Force. It's a Loyalist Space Marine Force, and it's the latest to get a supplement book, good old Black Templars. So, interestingly, I thought the very early rendition of the Black Templars color scheme was different from what we currently have, but I can't find that source image that I was basing my thoughts of that off of right now. I know I have the book somewhere that I've seen it, but I can't really find it. Basically, I thought the original color scheme had no white shoulder pads, or the very, very early renditions, but I could be mistaken. Anyways, with that said, what is the actual color scheme that we're looking at? Well, it's predominantly black armored, which you might be saying, well, yeah, they're called the Black Templars. You can't make that assumption. The Red Scorpions aren't red. Their symbol is. So technically, that's not a lie. The scorpion in their symbol is red. So here, they have a stylized Templar cross that is black, and their armor is black. For the most part. The white shoulder pad inset is the big pop color here. It's got the inside of the shoulder pad, not the trim, but the inside is white. On that, for both shoulder pads, is the chapter symbol in black. Red helmet lenses, red weapons, kind of your typical bone-ish, cream-ish colored cloth for cloaks and tabards and the like, and typical color purity seals. More of like a goldeny chest emblem like you do in a bone. You could even do it in silver if you wanted to. There's variants there, but we typically see it like a gold. And that is your very basic color palette for the Black Templars. However, there is variation within their force. For example, they don't always have a black stylized cross for their symbol. Sometimes on their vehicles, they put a white cross on a black background, as well as a black cross on a white background. So that's worth noting. Their veterans, the Sword Brethren, don't have any white shoulder pad inset. It's full black armor with red shoulder pad trim, and the chapter symbols are done in red as well. So that's worth noting. And High Marshal Helbrecht, their chapter master, has a white shoulder pad inset, but his armor is entirely bronze brass, which is unique to him, with a black cloak with red trim on the inside, or red inset, or not inset, red interior, and a black tabard with a red interior, which, yeah, it's one model, one character, but it's such a standout thing, it's worth noting. And just to go entirely too deep into this variation on a theme here, Chaplain Grimaldus doesn't have a white shoulder pad inset either. Kind of in keeping with, I guess, Sword Brethren ways, he has pure black armor and a white symbol, not a red symbol, but a white symbol. For the Templar cross stylized thing. So you have some variation going on with the Black Templars. It's not quite in your face obvious necessarily as you might have thought. But it's a very clean look. This is a classic clean look. As they say, black goes at everything. It really does. It could be fur, it could be soft armor parts, it could be hardened, powered armor here. Black works. And we know this because how many official loyalist and traitor forces have predominantly black armor? There's a lot of them. So, to that fact, it's nice that the Black Templars have a bit of white for the bulk of their force to pop it, right? This really helps them stand out. Keeping in mind that the, Sigismund is their was their first chapter master. He's the one that basically went on to create the Black Templars, and basically they're wearing his personal coat of arms colors. So that's just why they look the way they do. Anyways, red also, I guess I'll say, by the way, is used to accent things such as, maybe special ribbons or whatever else. So, having said all that stuff, I like this color scheme, and kind of the big 3 full-on chapters of Black Armor that are loyalists that we can think about easily, that have chapter tactics, for example, and whatnot, would be Black Templars, Raven Guard, Iron Hands. And if you put 3 basic troop choice infantry dudes next to each other, you would be able to tell them apart, even if they didn't have symbols on them necessarily, because of color application and accenting. And that's important. It can be tough to have Black Armor look different between multiple forces. Iron Hands, for example, a little bit more glossy, I feel, than the rest. Raven Guard have 1 shoulder pad trim, sometimes 2, a certain color, and everything else. So, and the Black Templars have the white shoulder pad inset to help them stand out amongst the rest. That's helpful. You move on, you have things like the Black Consuls, which are also Black Armor. They use gold and stuff, so that helps break things out. The Raven Wing of the Dark Angels is Black Armor, but that's always on a bike and specialized. The first Legion of, the Dark Angels Legion, Crusade times, all black. Not really pertinent for 40k. I'm just saying, like, black is used a lot. The Black Legion of Chaos, right? They have chaosy bits, yes, and other ways in which they stand out with coloration as well. So black can go the distance in terms of coloration for your main armor color, but it's important to do things to help it stand out, and the Black Templars definitely achieve that. So that's the point of my whole long spiel there. I like it. I really appreciate the Sword Brethren's differentiation. I like that they do it in a very simple way. They use red for shoulder pad trim, red for the symbol, and Black Armor everywhere. What I like about it is, outside of doing a specific company of Ultramarines or a chapter that does the same shoulder pad trim coloration like the Ultramarines, typically on shoulder pad trim, it's metallic when you think about it, like a silver or gold. It doesn't tend to be a secondary color. Either it's the same armor color as the rest of the armor and the secondary colors on the inset. I like how the Sword Brethren, and they're not unique to this, I know this, right? The Raven Guard have coloration on their shoulder pad trim, I get that. But my point is that I just like how they decided to go with red as opposed to making it more ornately gold or something. I just appreciate it. So, pretty simple, effective, sharp color scheme. And you can dirty it up, you can do whatever, and still have it look really good. I don't feel like, even with certain highlighting effects that you can see on certain models painted up by the heavy metal team, it doesn't come across as like a glossy black finish. It's definitely more of a standard satin at most style of black. Not that you're going to achieve that via gloss or via a varnish or anything like that, but I'm just saying it doesn't, to me, necessarily give off the vibe quite like an Iron Hands does for glossiness, if that makes any sense. It's not a bad thing, it's part of the variation. So, having said that, painting up this color scheme is very straightforward and has some nuances to it and things to consider. Depending upon what you're painting, of course, does it have, how much cloth does it have, how much accent coloration does it have, and whatever else. Dry fit the pieces together to see what's going to be blocked too much, and therefore paint them separately and assemble later. But outside of that, when it comes to actual painting, I find, especially if you're doing a traditional black approach, which is use black paint, do all the lighter colors first, be as messy as you want, as long as it's not too thick of a coat, obviously. Keep the coats thin, be as messy as you need to be to get like the white nice and crisp or whatever else, and then carefully go back in with a fine detail brush and black paint to clean up right near the border between the two, and then neaten up the rest of the armor easily enough. Black cleans up super well. Black is also a nice base coat for metallic, so any type of metallic you want, make sure you're painting that area up black as well, and you probably will be. If you're not going with black as the way to do black, which bear with me, you can do that with a gray and a bunch of washes of black, or a bunch of blue and brown washes together over a light undercoat to achieve like a rich black tone, which has variation because it's different pigments making the illusion of black. It still can work that way. It's just going to be a little bit harder to neaten up, but it can still work, and it can be a little bit more difficult to stay neat with the black, but I still recommend doing lighter colors first. Now, in terms of highlighting, we typically see on the Black Templars, especially now, a highlighting that's done almost like a bluish gray instead of a typical standard gray. You can go which way you want with it, but the nice thing is it won't take much to really have black look sharp in terms of highlight layers. The more subtlety you want to put into it, the more you can kind of feather in like a deep blue into the black and build up on the edges more of like an obvious grayish blue and stuff. And it kind of gives more, I don't want to say warmth, but depth to the black. And really, at the end of the day, black is going to be a lesson of highlights because shading isn't really a thing you're going to do. So you're going to give off the illusion of shade in the recesses by having wherever that recess is, right near that recess, a nice highlight. And that's how you're going to pick out the details and not have it be washed away by being too dark. Outside of that, just take your time with it. Anything that's a particularly bright color is going to have black right next to it. I suggest doing that first and carefully kneading up the black after the fact. While Sharpies and paint and like micro pens and fine paint pens will be a little bit off from whatever black paint you're going to be using, if you're really worried and you have a nice fine tip Sharpie or micro pen, you can use that to be the direct border and then paint close to that and maybe a little overlap carefully, and it shouldn't stand out too much, but test it obviously. Anyways, with that said, even if you're gonna go crazy with black, it can be a pretty quick coloration to do. The white will pop very nicely. It's just enough white to give you experience painting white without driving you mad if you're new to it. So that's also very nice. Anyways, I could go on and on and on. Obviously, Helbrecht being with the metallic coloration of brass bronze, do that as you will. Even in that situation, I recommend personally, painting in pieces, don't fully assemble, and do some of the bright tones of the cloth, because you see like the red, the way they have it painted up anyway, and the whites there. Do those first anyway, because like I said, metallics show up very nicely on a black undercoat, so you can neaten up with black and then put the metallics over that. So I think I've gone on and on enough here. Probably a little bit more than you might have thought for talking about painting black. Black is one of those colors that has a lot of variation in how you can achieve it, and depending upon how much work you put into it, you can have a black that looks great, basic work put into it, and if you go real crazy with it, you can have a black really kind of hit that next level, but take a lot more work than perhaps you would have thought initially, but can be well worth the results. So with all that said, that's my thoughts on painting the Black Templars. I will do other black armored forces in the future, particularly ones that are different enough. So, there's more than one way to do this color, just like there's more than one way to do red and so on, and it's worth talking about. Any case, share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you collect Black Templars? How do you do your black formula for it? And let's have some fun. Thanks very much for tuning in and watching to the end. And until next time, take it easy.